So you mentioned live streams, so I want to talk a little bit now about live streams and DJing. So you did a lot of live streams during the pandemic.
Yeah.
What can you talk a little bit about that? Like, do you start first at your home, or what did you do?
Yeah, so I actually, luckily I had my live stream stuff set up before the pandemic hit. So I start my company, set up the live stream, and then like 5 months later was COVID. So I was like, oh good, I'm ready. Like I have the ball rolling already. Yeah, and then I did more because then people started having live stream events in place of like festivals or events. So then I would do it with them. The reason why I started live streaming was I bought a mixer so I could practice at home, like to get my DJ skills up. A lot of my other friends said like, yeah, they just went to parties, got booked, and did DJing. But I'm like, I wanted to be more self-confident and really like probably overanalyze every little detail to the extent that then I can't actually do anything. I'm paralyzed by my own knowledge.
I think that can be it's a blessing and a curse. I think. Do you find that you prefer then to do the live streams than performing like live on stage? I've seen you do both. You've played like a bunch of my events, both live and live stream. What do you prefer then?
I mean, yeah, it's nice to do it at home because then like you can roll into bed like 10 minutes after you're done. But I really miss the engagement with people. And Twitch makes it a bit better now. Like people can send like, I don't know what they're called, coins or whatever. Like people can send pop-ups and you have the chat and then people are super engaged that way. But it's never the same as seeing someone like on the dance floor. It's like the same as teaching. Like seeing my students in person is so much better than like even seeing them through a little screen. Like it's just so much more motivational
and engaging as well because you're feeding off of
you can tell and tap into them more
and you can see what they want. And I think for me as well, like as an MC, that emceeing live streams is obviously totally different than emceeing live events, and obviously I prefer 100% to MC a live event because you're playing off the crowd. If I'm emceeing at a live stream, it's like put your hands up, and it's like
you see it.
Like I don't see anyone doing anything. Like someone could be cleaning their kitchen or walking their dog or having a party at their house during a live stream. You don't know what they're doing, and you have to be careful what you say as well because like I'm hyping up people that are not there. So it's like, what do you say?
Maybe they don't want to be hyped up.
Maybe they don't want to be hyped up. And maybe it's not always necessary, to be like shouting at them, maybe the music at that point. Whereas at a live event, especially for hard dance, an MC does play, in my opinion, a big role, a big part, especially in the Netherlands. We see a lot with MCs to hype up the crowd, to support the DJ, to keep the night going. I had Mouth and Madness on the podcast, and he was saying as well that like, when you start to see the crowd, people going to get a beer, check their phone, it's when you reel them back in, and that's the part of the MC to bring everyone back in. But you don't have that at a live stream because there are no people. So
exactly. Do
you feel like it's the same for you as a DJ? Like you kind of, when you're live, you can feed off the crowd. If you see people are really feeling what you're playing, you'll continue on that path, or...
Yeah, exactly. Because usually like I'll make a DJ set according to like the energy like I want to make or shape. But then definitely you have to be really in tune to what people want too, because at that point, like I'm not just doing it for myself anymore. Like I want to play exactly what I want because I love to do it, but I also really like people enjoying it too. So for people to enjoy it more, I have to give them what they want. So it's finding the balance between what I want to do and what people want to see and hear.
That's a difficult balance, and I've asked this before on the podcast as well. How do you find that balance between producing and playing the music you want and you want to hear, and then also giving the people what they want because you need them? They're your fans. Exactly, they're the ones who are supporting you. So how do you come to that balance?
Well, I think like first it's amazing that I have any fans. It always surprises me, and it's always surprising. Why? Oh, because it's like I'm just doing this like for the fun of it.
Yeah, but that's how you get fans, is because you're passionate about it. You're doing it for the fun of it, and people. I talked about this recently as well. Like, if you're putting out positive energy, you're gonna get that back. People see that you're positive, you're passionate about what you're doing, you're putting in that hard work, so that in turn is gonna bring them to you. If you're just like, meh, I don't really like music, I'm just doing this like whenever I have nothing else better to do on Tuesday, you're not going to get fans because the product's not going to be good. But when you're putting in your heart and soul like you're doing, it's obvious to me that people are going to like it, I think.
Yeah, and that's really cool. And because social media is such a big part of music today. People might argue with this, but you have to have some sort of presence and people have to be able to contact you and engage with you. and communicate with you back and forth. That's how you get like, productive conversations, and that's how you build up relationships. But it's so cool when people come to me like with their own passion against my passion, and then I'm like, oh wow. Or like somebody will email me like from Australia, and he'll be like, yeah, I was struggling like to understand kicks for years, and I saw this, and then it's a whole other world opened up for me. And I'm like, it's so cool that you can impact people that way.
I love that. I love that. And that's what it's all about. And I feel the same in my podcast too, that like I have some listeners in Iran and Ghana and Nigeria and like all these places. I'm like, it's just, obviously I know a lot of people are listening in the US and in Europe, you know, I'm American, I live here now, but that it's reaching people in so many places that I wouldn't think it would reach. And I have that too sometimes, like, I thought, you know, putting out people would listen, but sometimes like, holy shit, like people are liking it and people are listening.
Yeah.
And when I ask people to come on too as a guest on the podcast and they say yes, I'm like, awesome, well, great, like cool, they want to come. Or when people approach me that they want to come on. So I now that I think about it, I actually, I'm changing my mind. I feel the same way as you. Before I was like, what do you mean there's no way? But now I'm like, no, I actually feel the same way just with the podcast. And I think, sometimes it's just shocking. And it's like, oh, wow, you do want to come on. You said yes to cut this person I would never think they want to come on, or they're genuinely curious, or they're interested, or some random person's listening that I had no idea that they would be listening. You know, people that are not even interested in electronic music are listening. Someone I used to work with at the beach back in the day, she's from Latvia. She told me she listens to the podcast, and I was like, that's amazing. I had no idea. Yeah. Like, so I do now, thinking about it, I feel the same.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
I think it's really rewarding, and it's really cool, and it makes it even more worth it, because we're putting something out there and it's getting reciprocated. Otherwise, it's just
Well, that's the challenge, because like you always have to stick out your neck a little bit and do something that you're not comfortable with to like grow and to actually get some sort of like better result than you're used to, and to be better at something than you used to be. But it takes like I was mentioning before, like you have to be able to be okay with failing. And also contacting people and like being open for negative criticism and feedback. I mean, don't take like the non-productive criticism or feedback, like that stuff doesn't matter. Those people don't matter. But the feedback that's like well formulated, and people have your best intentions at heart and they want you to see you get better. Yeah, those are the people you want to tap into. And it's really the majority of people are good, I think. Like
I think so too. Yeah. How do you handle like haters online and things like that, trolls?
I don't really get them anymore. I think like when I started, I got like there was this one guy who like followed me from Reddit and then went on some huge angry tangent. And there was a few people that actually like sent screenshots to me. They're like, "Do you get this a lot?" I was like, "No." Like really no. Like I mean, people are always gonna judge you no matter what you do. Like in any aspect of your life. And you might not think it's true, but it's true. And even if they don't tell you they're judging you. So everyone is going to have their opinion about something. What's the saying? Like, opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
Yeah.
But just be true to yourself and do what you want to do. Because you don't want to end up like being 10, like 20, 40 years later and like regretting not doing something just because you listened to someone who told you shouldn't do it, or you're like playing by the rules set by society or somebody else and not being true to your own self or like what you're passionate about just because you think you shouldn't do that.
Yeah, I think we said putting your neck out there. You have to take that first step, and that it's a big risk, and it's gonna suck probably at first. It's probably not gonna be very good, but give it some time and it gets better and better. But you can't be afraid to fail, and I think that's what holds a lot of people back from pursuing these kind of passion projects, because especially in society, it's like we have to work, we have to do our jobs, we have to pay taxes, you have to take care of your family or clean the house, whatever. There are things you have to do. But these side passion projects, like, we don't need to do them, so to do that, to take that risk, it's hard, and you have to be, a little bit, you just have to do it. You just have to do it and not worry about what other people are going to say. I have the problem of, like, putting it off, because I want it to be perfect, and that's also why it's taken me a while to start the podcast. So the idea for Drop Bass Not Bomb started in, like, 2013 and didn't really actually come to be until 2017. And everything happens at the right time for the right reasons. So I'm not worried about that. But I think it's normal to be like, no, it's not ready. I'm not ready yet. And it's like, well, you got to be ready eventually if you want it to be out there. Otherwise, you're just pushing it back.
And that's the thing. Like, I always wanted to do 100%, but like stop at 80%. And because like the last 20% you go crazy for. And then it's like according to whose scale, like maybe you're 100% or maybe you're 80% is somebody else is like 120%. So like calibrate like your expectations against what like other people actually expect too, and just like do less. I mean,
yeah, I think
it's like save the fucks for like what you actually care about in life.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, and just doing it. Just do it.
And don't be scared of rejection. It's like, approaching people like if you want to go on a date with someone, you're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't approach them. I'm scared. It's like, if you don't talk to them, then you're going to, lose out either way. So like your chances are 100% of failure if you don't talk to them. Whereas if you go and ask them, like you never know, right?
You might have you might, you miss every shot you don't take. So might as well just try it. And otherwise you'll never know. And then who knows, like you said, 40 years from now, you'll regret it and be like, I should have done this,
And like, at least you tried, right? Like,
yeah, it's all you can do is try.
And when you're mentioning like busy with work and everything, it also makes it difficult because if you're working 40 hours a week and then doing production the rest of the time, like say if you're really into it, if you're really burnt out from work and like, emotionally like really exhausted from that, then it's hard to put a lot of passion and energy into the production and then also send it out again, because then you're like putting more effort into something that should be fun, but you're not sure the result you're gonna get. So it can be quite like a tumultuous process, I think, getting into production, and especially when you're not doing it full time.
So how do you find like a work-life balance between like your full-time job, having cats, having
a cat mom.
I was gonna being a mom. I mean, I'm a dog mom. As a mother, I mean, I'm a mother. I have Nuka. Yeah. You're a mother of 2. Congratulations. Yeah. So, but you anyway. Sorry, you get what I mean. That like having all these responsibilities. How do you find the time? At the end of the day, when you're really tired, the cats are like, meow. How do you find the time to get in the studio and produce?
I told them to shut up. They're not real children, so I'm allowed to do that. No, don't tell them that.
They're so cute.
They're so cute, yeah. They inspire me, my cats.
Oh, I love that.
Always be like, your work shouldn't be your whole life. It used to be for me, and then I'm like, this is not serving my own purpose anymore. So for me, like my work now should be a means to the end, and I'm still passionate about it. I still have to do it. I still push myself to do it. But it should allow me to do fun stuff that I want to do. And it should not burn me out to the point that I have no energy left to do it. So the last few months, like I moved to another house again. I was living in a shed for a couple months. It was a very like difficult time. So I didn't do a lot of production. But it's okay, because if I sat down to force myself, I would be like, oh my God, like I have nothing to give here. Whereas now, like I feel okay again. And I'm really looking forward to like, I plugged in my mixer the other day and I plugged in my audio interface, and small steps toward like getting ready to do it again.
So how do you get motivated in times like that, or times when you're feeling down or burnt out? Like how do you get yourself out of the ditch?
Yeah. It's funny. There's a complicated way. So like, oh my God, it's too complicated. So I wanted to buy solar panels for my house.
Okay.
But you can ask for the tax back for that if you're like a normal person with no company yourself. But if you own your own company, it's really complicated. And also if you fall under this kleine ondernemersregeling, it's even more complicated. So then I was like, okay, if I have my turnover for my company reach over 20,000 euros in 1 year, then I can get the tax back on my solar panels. So I was like, okay, what can I do to get over 20,000 euros in Corona making music? That was a motivation, but then I was like, that's not the right motivation. That's
wow.
That was a bit like, So just, I
so
really
what was the motivation in that? Okay, that your passion for music.
I sat down to like the piano and I was like, I'm going to do 5 minutes on the piano. And then 5 minutes turns into half an hour, turns into like 2 hours, because I just like doing it. And then the next step is like, I'm going to find the cable to plug in my computer to my piano because I lost it in the move. But I'm probably going to have to buy it, but I'll just buy the same one I bought before. So like, find little shortcuts. Like, don't research a whole new cable because they made new cables. Just like buy the same one because it worked, and it's probably cheaper now.
Do you think people make the mistake of like trying to do too much at once, like diving in instead of like what you said, taking small steps, like finding that cable, playing for 5 minutes, instead of saying like, okay, today I'm going to run a marathon, or today I'm going to make a track? Like, do you find that a lot of people make that mistake?
Yeah, and it's partly like, you want to be confident, but the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. So rather than, as you learn more, you realize that you have to take smaller steps usually. But then you're also like, you see what you're doing as part of a bigger picture. Like then you can have more of like a goal orientation to like each little task you're doing. Sorry, I went on kind of a tangent. What did you ask again?
Oh yeah, I was asking about like, because you were saying you took small steps to kind of get where you are. You said you were living in a shed and it was like a rough time. So I was like, what small steps did you take? And then I asked you like, do you feel that a lot of people make the mistake of like trying to go all in too fast rather than searching for that cable? They're, trying to build a piano from scratch, for example.
Yeah, it's a matter of finding like, how can you make little rewards for yourself? It's like if you're studying, like read for 20 minutes, set a timer. When it goes off, like eat a gummy bear, like, like reward yourself for a little progress. And it's the same with production. Like try to making an 8-bar loop is fun. So in music, the arrangement is timed over bars. So 8 bars is usually, I don't know, like 20 seconds or something in Frenchcore, like 200 beats per minute. So make a little thing that sounds good and then stop. And then make something else. Like, don't just keep like trying to perfect like the same idea. But it's hard though, because when you start, there's so much. So that's kind of what I want to do with my tutorials. Like, also as a resource for myself to organize like what I can use for what's, like what I need to know for what's. What new information can I go find to help me understand something better, and then put that into practice. It's like everything. But that's the difficulty, right? Because there's just so much.
There's a lot, but I like that your tutorials are breaking it down. You're starting with the small steps, and also it's like a capsule in time that's going to be there forever, so people can always come back. It's like a library, like people can always come back and reference it, and you can make different things for different people, like you said, and it's always going to be there for people who want to use it as a resource. So, and
now that you mention the Library of Congress in the United States, in 2022, so like January 1st of this year. They opened up the copyright for all of the like sound archives in the sound bank they have, and it's like really, really comprehensive. I think everything till like 1920 now, you have to go look to be sure, is like free to use for anything. Ooh. Which is really cool. And the way you can go search for it is like, it's kind of coordinated on a map, like it's coded, it's super cool, like it's really interactive. Sorry, that was another.
Do you think that's gonna? No, it's okay. Do you think that's gonna impact the music? Yeah, like I didn't know that. That's really cool. Yay, really Congress. Cool. So, do you think that's gonna impact the music that's coming out? I want to bring this back to what you said before, that like during the pandemic, people were making music not so much those festival main stage bangers, but more kind of long form, kind of more dramatic music. Do you think now that people are gonna have access to music from the 1920s and more classical tunes, do you think that's gonna change production? Or is it not really going to matter?
I mean, I think for COVID, it gave a lot of people more time to take up a hobby. And it's funny because I asked my followers, and half of them did take up a lot of new stuff, and half of them just like relaxed, which is fine too. It depends on your situation and who you are. I think it gives people time to do more research too. And a lot of people went looking for tutorials as well. And then, a lot of producers also started doing master classes, especially because they didn't have the source of income, like the festivals. That was like, poof, gone. There's a way of like diversifying your activities as an existing producer, but then as a beginning producer, just finding like where you can, get new information from, how to use it.
And now there's more information, and now more, like you said, new tracks. People can take tracks now from the 1920s, just more music coming out. So that's cool.
Yeah, and it's everything, like even sound clips and interviews with like famous people. Yeah.
Do you think movies too? Just everything?
Yeah. I think everything goes into the Commons, the Creative Commons from 1920. Before 1920 now, if you go to the Library of Congress. But it's on my website there, you can find a link.
Okay, cool. That's really, I learn something new every day. So I want to talk a little bit about toxic sickness. So we've talked about a lot of different topics now. And one project that you've been really busy with is your residency on toxic sickness. Can you tell us, like, how did that start?
Yeah, so a friend of mine, she did a guest mix for them, and I think she got invited to do it through another friend of hers who did guest mix or had a residency. So she's like, I should totally do it. Like, just email Alan, like, send him something. So what did I do? Yeah, I think that's just what I did. I was like, hey.
Just emailed him?
Yeah.
And then now you have residency? Did you first do a mix?
I did like a residency mix. But I did it like so many times because I wanted to be perfect. And the same thing my friend was saying too. She recorded it like so many times. But you really learn, like every time you do it, you learn a little bit more. And it kind of feels like, you do the same thing a billion times. But that's how you learn, right?
So how often do you do this now?
I was doing it every month. But now with the teaching again, I'm doing it every second month. But then I can make it like twice as good now, or like 1.5 times as good. Yeah, and because I never I started producing. I didn't start DJing first, so most people start with DJing and then go to producing. So I did it the other way. So it's like helping me with my DJ skills to like see how songs mash together. Like, so maybe, if people don't understand this, the difference between DJing and producing. DJing is you're mixing two tracks that already exist, like two songs, song A and song B, that other artists have made, like two complete tracks. And producing is building up one of those song A or song Bs using a number of what they also call tracks. So a number of layers of instrument and kicks and stuff into one, song. So one is really macro and the other is really micro. So I started like in the super fine, like detail oriented, like production stuff. But for DJing, you need to know like arrangement and how everything sounds together. And that's what people want to hear. They don't hear like all these tiny graphs you're manipulating, you know?
So would you advise up-and-coming producers to do what you did, or just up-and-coming artists in general do what you did and go the production route first rather than the DJ route first?
I mean, people were telling me to learn how to DJ, and then kind of because they were telling me to do that, I didn't want to do it. I'm stubborn.
You're like, nah.
Yeah. I think it does learn to help. It helps to learn to DJ first, but you don't have to know how to DJ to be a good producer, because it's kind of different skills too. And I think that's why a lot of this is a maybe dangerous sentiment. A lot of women are good at DJing. I mean, it takes time to do everything, obviously. So if you're more outgoing and you're more a party person and you like to be in front of a crowd, and also people like to look at you, then like DJing is probably more like your niche. But if you're more liking to sit behind a computer and really work on something for days on end, then like maybe producing is more of your niche. So it's, I don't think you necessarily should have to do both, but it does help to have some understanding of the other one to improve the one you want to do.
I think we've seen it in all ways with electronic music, and specifically hard dance. You have some people who are really great at producing, and then on stage they're a little bit shy. They're not really interacting with the crowd. Yeah, exactly. You can tell that producing is more their thing. Yeah. Then you have others who don't produce their own music, and that's fine. They're strictly DJs, and they're great at it.
Yeah, and then you look at them, and you're like, oh, I'm so excited to watch this person like rip the stage apart.
Crushing it.
Yeah.
And then you have some people who are great at both. And there are plenty of examples of people who are great at both. Rob G is a great example. He is someone who produces, and also he's like the craziest person on stage I've ever seen. Like, he gives it 110% every time. And, you know, as I've been with him a lot on tour, I see that, you know, it's a lot of work. And sometimes you're tired, and not feeling well, and it just gives it 110% every time on the stage. Shows up dancing and singing and jumping. And so I think that's really interesting. That's for some people it's strictly they're better at producing, others are strictly DJing, and then can be a mix of both. And I think the mistake people make though is when people come at people for not making their own music, and we see that a lot. Oh, they don't make their own music, man, they're ghost produced. Who cares? Maybe they're not a producer. Maybe, like you said, some people, if what they're good at is performing on stage and mixing track A with track B and getting the crowd to go wild, then what, maybe unpopular opinion, people could come at me, but what's wrong, come at me. You heard it. But what's wrong with that? Like, is there something wrong with that? I don't think so. Do you think so?
Yeah, it's a dangerous territory. No, I mean, I don't think so, because it's a different set of skills, right? And at the end of the day, like, you want it to have like one product, something that's cohesive, it sounds good with like a person behind it, because people connect more to a person than to just a song, right? You want to know who the artist is, like what they stand for, like maybe some like aspects of their personality, like a bit of their history. It always comes back to the people, I think. But it's good to, like, as a producer, like I really like to be transparent about what I'm doing, because people, I think, often assume I don't make my own music, which is okay. Like, they can assume that if they want. But I really put a lot of work into showing how I make it, partially to show that I am making it, but partially because other people like to learn about it too. Yeah.
And I think that's what it's all about. It's like just being honest, being transparent, but also people should just mind their own business as well, and just like understand the fact that like you can be a great DJ and not a producer. You can be an amazing producer and not a great DJ. You can be amazing at both, or you can be horrible at both.
I think you should just stop while you're ahead.
Just like you did. Okay, for example, me. I tried to DJ in college. I was DJ Jungle Gym. I went to a shady part of DC, and I got a Newmark mix track. I started with virtual DJ, and to be honest, not that good. Like I said, I don't have a musical background.
You're never good when you start anything.
Well, I don't think I was that good further than that.
Okay.
But maybe if I had given it the time and energy and effort and passion, it was just something for fun that I did in college, played at the honors fraternity events and like campus events, things like that. And I was not that great at it, and that's okay. Now I don't remember even how we got onto this like really long tangent. But basically what I'm trying to say is that it's at the end of the day, if someone is really passionate about something and giving it their 110%, let them do their thing. That's I think.
Yeah, and I mean, like, people are all like, it's usually strangers too, are always gonna shit on you for something, like, and then like the couple people that have come to me like all angry, it's like, yeah, okay. And like, you can let it get to you, but then you can also think like, who the fuck is this person? Like,
what are they doing?
Who are you?
What music have they made lately?
So you have to elevate yourself too, because if you don't, you'll be like, oh, I feel like shit because this person told me I'm shit and my music is shit and I'm shit and I'll never be anything and I'm worthless. And then you can, like, if you listen to them, that's how you feel. But that's only like one random asshole's opinion. So you have to remember that like there's so many people out there who like love you and support you, and like all these random strangers who are also supporting you, and you don't know who they are, but you see like them listening. So
that's amazing. Yeah, and it's really easy for someone to hide behind the computer and just
exactly.
I doubt that person is a producer, like,
or happy with their life.
Yeah, exactly. If they need to like tear down other people. And what you said before too, there is a difference between like trolling and hating and constructive criticism.
Yeah, exactly.
So if someone tells you, "Hey, I listened to your track," or "Hey, I listened to an episode of your podcast," I get this a lot actually. I listen to this and I think that maybe this sounded a little bit like this, or why don't you try that? Okay, that's great. But if someone's just like, "You're horrible, you should jump off a building," like, no, that's
I know, exactly.
There is
like, what
not
am
that
I supposed
anyone
to do
said
with this
that.
information? Like, yeah.
But it's just people projecting. It's people projecting.
Yeah.
It's easy for someone to hide behind their computer and to let out all their anger.
Exactly.
So,
don't listen to terror. Don't rip apart somebody else. Constructively feedback a terror song. Like,
yes, do that. Listen to terror. Go to heavy bag boxing class. Do something else. Clean your whole house. Do something else with your aggression.
Don't take it out on other people.
No, because it does hurt people, and it doesn't do anything productive.
It's really contagious, that sort of energy. Like, positive energy is contagious, but also this shitty, awful, negative energy. That's why also, like, it's so important, like, who you choose to have as friends, who you collaborate with, like, where you choose to work. Because at the end of the day, if you think, like, that stuff doesn't get to you, it still will get to you.
Don't they say you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with or something? Yeah. Is that true?
I'm sure it is, yeah.
Interesting.
I think about that a lot.
Yeah, me too. I think about that a lot. I'm like, okay.
Who am I?
But then also, like, people might be thinking that about me. Like, oh, I spend a lot of time with Amy. That explains a lot.
Yeah, but in a good way.
I hope so. I think so. Yeah, for the most part.
Definitely. Otherwise, I wouldn't hang out with you.
That's true.
Oh,
I'm fun. So okay, bringing the boat back to the dock again. Bringing it back. I wanted to ask you, a little bit about your brand, but also, do you find as a female like pressure to like look a certain way on stage? I mean, you're really pretty, but like, do you thanks. Like, do you feel pressure to dress a certain way, to look a certain way, to present a certain way?
Yeah, definitely. And when I started DJing, like, I was more worried about how I looked and presented myself versus the music that I was making. And I mean, it's both. Like, you want the performance, you want to be like visually entertained, but you also want the music to match and the music to sound good. So that's the tricky thing, because then I couldn't concentrate on how I looked and at the music at the same time, which drove me crazy. Because then I was so fixated on, like, okay, what angles am I? Like, am I happy? Am I fucking smiling enough? For fuck's sake.
Oh my, real? The smiling enough?
Oh my God.
Is that a thing?
Well, you have to look like you're enjoying yourself, right?
Oh yeah, that's true.
Because, I mean, if I'm really into something, I'll be, like, glaring and, like, live streaming, like...
Resting bitch face?
Yeah.
Oh,
like,
I have it.
Super, like, punched and into my zone. But, I mean, for people who, like, are really into the music, too, they'll be like, oh, yeah, I get that. I respect that person's like that. But then as a general, like, for your wider audience, I mean, it's probably not so attractive. You have to be honest with yourself. Like, what do people want to see?
They just want to see them, like, staring with their head down, like, hunched over. You're right. I actually never thought about that before, because as an MC, like, it's all about the presentation.
Yeah,
So I need to interact with the crowd. You
Yeah.
need to be making that eye contact. You need to be look presentable. And I've spoke about this with Mouth of Madness, that at the beginning for me, it was all about also how I looked. It was about the presentation and the gimmicks. You remember, you were there. The confetti, throwing beach balls in the crowd.
They're really fun. So they're important. They're really important elements. So we can't deny that at all.
We can't deny that, and we can't deny the past and how far I've come. But I think we can accept that, like, there is taking it too far and taking it. I told a story in the podcast before where I was like throwing beach balls in the crowd and like no one was like picking them up. Yeah, no one was like picking them up. They were just like bouncing down. And instead of taking that as a sign, like maybe you should stop. I'm like, you're not the beach boys. Yeah, I did. That's what I did. It's like more.
You just need more to have fun.
Yeah, I'm like, maybe they missed it.
Maybe they didn't see it.
Yeah, they didn't see it. They didn't know that this is what they want. And it's like, no, okay. Or like, if you also need to know the crowd. If you're playing at a small club with 5 people, maybe they don't need to shoot confetti at them. Like
T-shirt gun.
I did. Oh, don't get me started. I used to have a marshmallow shooter, not when I was emceeing, but like just for my personal life. I had a marshmallow shooter, but don't give me any idea. Yeah, basically. And I actually have Fantasyland back in the day with East Coast Hard Dance. That was my thing. I would walk around with like a marshmallow gun, but
is it for shooting marshmallows?
Yeah. What do you think is?
I was thinking marshmallow like the DJ.
Oh no, I don't think he has his own line of like shooter. No, marshmallow.
Business idea.
Business like, hey, marshmallow. So for those who don't know, a marshmallow gun or a marshmallow shooter is a long. Conversation is going all over. It's a long tube. And as a trigger, and you load it with actual marshmallows, and you pull the trigger, and it shoots out marshmallows.
It's pretty G-rated.
People. Yeah, just like boop. They get a marshmallow in your face.
Are they mini marshmallows or the big ones?
You want to use medium-sized ones. The
20
jumbo,
to 50 grams.
the jumbo American ones are a bit too large, and the mini ones for hot chocolate, save it for the hot chocolate.
Could lose an eye, probably.
Yeah, that's... Anyway, marshmallow guns. Getting back on track. So there is this pressure to look and dress a certain way, because at the end of the day, bringing it back full circle, you want people to listen to your music. You want people to buy your tracks, to subscribe to your channel. And if you're hunched over with resting bitch face, like not smiling, you're probably not going to get that many people subscribing and watching.
And as much as like I hate that that's true, and it's still true. Like, and that's the reality of life. Like, and that one advice that's really helped me is like fake it till you make it. Like, really, like, put your shoulders back, have the body posture of someone who would be a confident person who you'd want to, like, engage with, be interactive with, and then you kind of slowly become that person. And it's not being, like, unrealistic or something, and it's not being, like, not true to yourself. It's just, like, having, like, what kind of person or energy do I want to, project and get back? And it really, like, the way you relate, like, project, like, change your, like, how do I say this? How you put yourself together and present it to other people, you get that energy back.
Oh yeah, for Hopefully. Sure. If we were sitting here being like, how's your day? Yeah, I'm just tired and I have taxes to do.
Oh my god, taxes.
No, They're like, no one wants to listen, then no one's gonna listen to it. No. We're not gonna be having fun. But if you're engaging, and same thing if you're DJing, if you're engaging and you're fun, and I've seen you perform, and I see how you're excited and you're like like doing dancing
all over the place. Like
I love that, and that's what you want to watch, and also as an event organizer, those are DJs that I want to book and I want to have, and I want to have someone that's gonna have the same energy. I'm super high energy. Spoiler alert, a high energy person. I want to have someone that's going to bring crowd and going to bring the energy and get people dancing. If I wanted background music, then that's something else. Yeah. You want to have a packed dance floor, people dancing, and someone who loves what they're doing, not someone who's just doing it because it pays the bills.
Yeah,
or
exactly.
Nothing else better to do with their day.
Yeah.
Definitely. So going back a little bit to your brand, you started your own company. So can you tell us a little bit, what is AnneX Productions?
Yeah, so my company is AnneX Productions. And I started it in January 1st, 2020, so just a little bit before COVID. And I really started it because I wanted to, get the tax deducted from all like the hardware and the stuff that I'm buying. Because music production is obviously not a cheap hobby. So I was like putting all this money into investing in a hobby, and then I was like, I might as well do something a little more, professional with it. I did a lot of entrepreneur school, like also in my PhD. I did entrepreneur studies related to like climate change, innovation, adaptation, mitigation stuff. But the same idea for like entrepreneurial activities apply to everything, like how to start up your business, how to make a business model, how to make a sustainable idea, like with respect to what you do in your activities of your business. Yeah, so it was like a nice connection to do.
So would you advise other like artists to do that, to go that route, to like get registered, go to the Chamber of Commerce, start their own company?
I don't know. I really like paperwork. I think it's a problem. But partially, like if you can understand how the system works, then you can understand how to get the benefits from the system. And there's a lot of support for entrepreneurs in the Netherlands, and a lot of like tax benefits and possibilities you can benefit from. So in that sense, it's good, but it's probably not necessary. I mean, it's a lot of work for very little gain until you grow. But if you want to start, it's so easy to start a company here. You pay like 50 euros, you go down, you speak to someone, you have a coffee, like you check the name doesn't exist anywhere, and that's it. So
I did it as well for drop-based and you get a little folder, and it's like, I'm registered.
And they take a picture for you.
Yep.
And, so it's a really nice country to do that. And I'm happy I did. And it's kind of on the sidelines a bit now. One word of warning is like if you turn your hobby into your business, it starts to turn into work, obviously. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's not so obvious. And you could think, oh, if I love what I do, I never work a day in my life. But
is that true?
I mean, it's not always going to be the case. So, yeah.
I think with everything, there's good days and bad days, and there's days where like, you love it and you live for it, and then there's other days where it's like, oh, I'm really tired, I don't feel like doing a live stream.
Why am I doing this?
Why did I choose this again?
Yeah.
And then, once you commit to it, you kind of have to do it, because you got people waiting for, whether it's a tutorial or a live stream or a track or a podcast episode or whatever creative endeavor that you've undertook. Once you start putting it out there and you gain a following, people are expecting that from you. So you can't just be like, okay, bye.
It creates a commitment. That's also what I wanted to, because I wanted to push myself to do better and more. So if you sit kind of by yourself forever in your same room, it doesn't really lead to a lot of opportunities or other places. Whereas if you set things up more officially, then you have more of... you can further I'm trying to not use such big words, academic words. You can further substantiate who you are as an artist, and it makes you more legitimate. So there's practical benefits like tax stuff, and there's also these softer kind of benefits, being more legitimate and having a more solid brand presence.
It's also a way to protect yourself as well if you do things the official way. Exactly. You're less likely to get screwed over. I think if you're sending people official invoices rather than just here's a lot of cash after you're done playing.
Slap on the ass.
Yeah, here you go. Good job.
Get out of here.
See you next week. Doing things. I'm like you. I also like paperwork. I'm a quality management consultant in my day job, and I also like standards and forms and things like that. So I'm definitely one to play by the rules and play by the book and do things the official way. And I also got my company registered, things like that. And I think it's just better that way. It's safer and just adds to the legitimacy as well.
Yeah, and it's also especially it's good for women, because then it shows that you're serious about what you're doing. It's not just because you're sleeping with someone or you have some connection or whatever. It's really you're passionate about this, and you're very serious about what you're doing, from a business and practical and music perspective. So I think it helps build that up. And it's also good to know what the rules are so you can break them or learn how to work within within there to benefit yourself.
So one thing you said, do you feel though as a woman, as a female producer, actually you call yourself a productress, not a producer. So why, first of all, why is that?
Produceress.
Producer, okay, productress, no. I made up a word. Producer, okay, I made up a word. Produceress.
Okay, so I made up the word too.
Okay, productress sounds kind of sexy though.
Productress, because you have the crunch.
Productress.
Well,
Produceress.
Well, maybe there can be both. Maybe I can have a variation. A sub-produceress is the productress.
Huh. Okay, good idea. Good idea.
Later.
So why did you go with that name?
Yeah, because for a lot of words in I think a lot of languages, but in English, you can have waiter, waitress, actor, actress. But there's no produceress. There's only the male. And I mean, it's a very, like, it doesn't matter so much. But it still kind of matters. Because you want to be, like, reflected in, like, who you identify yourself as. Maybe this is going a little deep.
We've gone deep, so just keep
so
going.
I wanted to be, like, so part of how I differentiate myself is I'm, female and I do this. And I do that because, like, there's so few women doing it. It's not because I think it's better that I'm a woman or something. It's just what makes you kind of stand out a little bit. And so I thought, like, coining a term like that was kind of useful. And if you can coin your own term and have it associated with yourself at the beginning, then when people look it up, they'll come up with you, like in a Google search.
Progressive Frenchcore.
Yeah, progressive Frenchcore produceress.
Produceress, there you go.
Yeah, Dr. Anne Rainville.
Oh my God, so you just got all the boxes checked.
Yeah.
So do you feel as a woman then, like you said, starting your own company and producing your own music, do you feel that pressure to, like, prove yourself then?
Yeah,
Sounds
definitely.
like it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think you always have to, like, do more or better somehow to prove yourself. Yeah. And I think, like, a lot of guys don't see it and don't experience it. But from the women's side, like, you really do. If you think about it a lot and you think very critically about what you see and how your interactions are, then definitely.
I think that's a lot of pressure, and it's a lot of work, and it's, we've talked about it before, but it's a male-dominated scene, especially the hard dance scene, and you have to work twice as hard, and there's always the assumption, unfortunately, when there is a female DJ on stage that, oh, she's, her boyfriend did it, or, she's sleeping with this person, or, she doesn't make her own music, or she's just, someone paid me, she just showed up.
Yeah, right. They gave her a contract.
She was just
like,
standing
there,
hey, off the street, but we're joking, but these are all things that people actually say, and it's a real shame.
It's funny because it's true. Unfortunately.
Yeah, these are all things people are saying, and it's horrible because, we shouldn't judge a book by its cover, it's cliche, but, like, you shouldn't just assume all because it's, like, an attractive woman on stage that she slept with someone to get there, or that she doesn't make her own music, or that she doesn't know how to DJ, or that she was found in the parking lot, or right? She was like, hey, you, come on, like, we shouldn't assume that. We should be just, seeing how, is the music good, is it not good, Yeah. That's what it's about.
But actually, for me, I've never had anyone come up to me, at least to my face, and say, like, oh, you're just this because you know someone or whatever. Like, no one's accused me of it, which is nice. I mean, it's not true either, but no one said it either.
But I think also what we've talked about before with the transparency is, like, you've shown every step of the process, and you're like, I'm making...
Like, fight me.
Yeah, fight me. Like, go to my tutorials. Like, roll back the tape. Like, you've done it step by step. And you said, too, like, you signed up for this masterclass, or you consulted with this DJ. Like, you never once said... I came up with all the answers on my own. You said you did the Anger Fist masterclass. You talked to this DJ. You did this. You read this book. You watched this video. Like, you just said step by step everything that you did to learn, and then you've proved it by producing music and making tutorials. So there's really no evidence to say that you don't.
Because no evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, because you literally have done every single step to show that you do that. So. What can someone really say?
Exactly. And, like, people who do, like, if they were to say stuff, it's like, then you have no basis. Like,
Yeah. I think so. So all of that together, we're coming towards an end now. How do you define your personal brand? Who is AnneX?
Who is AnneX? So this is really interesting because when I went through, like, this kind of burnout period of my life, I realized I was in university for, like, 10 years pretty much straight. And in the first years of university, like, I had a lot of fun. I partied, like, I worked in a nightclub and a lounge. But then I was like, shit, I really need to focus on getting better grades if, I want to put my nose to the grindstone and, like, get the degree that I want. So then, for the next, like, 8 years after that, I basically, like, I gave up, like, caring about my appearance or, like, going to the gym or, like, anything that was good for my self-worth, like, in terms of how I, like, what makes you feel good as a person. And for me, that's, like, if I go to the gym, then my muscles feel relaxed and I feel less anxious, and then I'm more, like, cordial when I speak to people, and then I get better energy back. So, I really started focusing on, who am I as a person at the core of my being, like, once I finished school. After school, not during school. Don't take my advice, actually. Take vacations, take study breaks.
I also didn't do that. I didn't do any of that. And so, I also don't know what that's like. I just went full force 100%, and to my own detriment. So definitely take time off, take breaks, take rest, figure out who you are. Don't just plow through because you feel like you have to.
Somebody tells you to. Yeah, so for AnneX, I started an Instagram account when I was so I started producing first, and then someone told me, no one's going to listen to your music if they don't know who you are. And at first I thought, oh, how dare you, my music is amazing, that it will shine through and convince every listener that it's the best they've ever heard. But that's not true. Because you're not just listening to the song, you're listening to the whole concept and everything underlying the song. So it's not just the song. It's connected to so many other things, and especially you as an artist. I started this Instagram account to try to figure out who I am as AnneX and who I am as a person. And to get some cool photos, because you're only young once, right? Because I did a bit of the modeling stuff before, and then I went into university, hardcore university, for a long time, as I said. My life didn't really go that route. But for this, for AnneX, it's a way to do something that's make fun photos, but also make them worth practically applied to something. And for social media now, you can do that yourself. So you can skip the whole record label. You can use learn how to use tools like Photoshop yourself to make a rendered image, and do all sorts of cool stuff.
You don't need to go to the mall to get a photo shoot back in the day.
Nostalgia.
Yeah, I know. Just having flashlights, being a model at the mall. And, now I think, we live in a digital age now where you need an online presence. If you're going to be...
People are going to Google you.
People are going to Google you. They want to know who you are. They're going to get that lineup for the festival. If your name's on it, you're getting Googled. Or you're going to search for your Instagram. Or the promoter's going to want to tag you. They're going to want... you can't just be hiding in the shadows.
Exactly. Although it's safe to hide in the shadows. And that's what I wanted to. I wanted to be in my safe little corner. But then you don't get anywhere. So...
You got to put yourself out there. Yeah. Definitely. So we're coming now really toward the end. This is the question I ask all my guests. How do you rave for a cause or party for a purpose in your life?
Yeah, I think it's really cool to combine what you love with a good cause. I like them. I think it was Armin van Buuren or the State of Trance. They had these was it bring your own cup, or they had this return system for the cups?
I worked that.
Doing that. So I really like to see how sustainability and sustainable ideas are implemented in the events, and this really crosses over with my academic stuff on sustainability and innovation. So it's cool to see how that's going, and it's a big motivation is to save money, but that's okay. Because if there's more profit in it for the industry, then they're going to do that idea more because it's a profitable idea for them. And it's also leading to sustainability impacts. So I love seeing that stuff.
And we're seeing it more and more. We had guests from Bye Bye Plastic on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. It's very sexy to be sustainable, which is good. I mean, just don't greenwash. There has to be something behind it.
And it's definitely getting better too. And the Netherlands has banned single-use plastics, so that's a step in the right direction. Hopefully next festival season we don't see a sea of plastic cups anymore. Hopefully they're using hard plastic or another sustainable alternative. Mm-hmm. And just also incentivizing recycling and incentivizing making sustainability sexy, because it is.
It's there's the album from Madonna, I think it's called Hard Candy. I was just hard plastic.
Hard plastic, yeah,
it's
exactly.
A very sexy album.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's hard now to look ahead the future, with everything going on with the pandemic, but where do you see the future of Frenchcore going?
Oof, I don't know. I think for me, I just kind of want to get away from typically what the Frenchcore sound is, because now I'm a little bored with it, Because if you finally figure out how something works in a genre, at least for me, I'm now the problem isn't there anymore, because I'm really problem solving oriented. So I want to go into more I think hardcore in general, and kind of just take where AnneX is gonna go to where AnneX wants to go, and then see who goes with me. You still have to orient yourself to fit in, and I guess to be booked it's good to be consistent, so someone can put you in a genre category.
We like boxes in this scene, people like genre.
Cats like boxes. We like boxes. They're great, but yeah.
But it's also good to do things outside the box, especially if you feel that your sound is evolving and changing. But then you have the risk of people being like, well, you liked you better when you were like this.
Yeah, and that's what I've heard from other people. Like if you get like more famous for 1 or 2 songs, then you're like you're a prisoner of your own success, kind of, because then people expect you to make the same sounds. And for me, I'm really doing this because I love to do it and I love to be creative. And I mean, I could have sat down, well, maybe not, but like sat down and banged something out that sounded like almost exactly the same as what the best sound is right now. And it could have been quite popular, but that's not what I want to do. So it's really nice that I have the freedom and the time to, just experiment with my own stuff.
I think that's best. I see that, we see that a lot in the scene, people just, copying sounds that are already popular.
It's easy. But I mean, for some people it's fine, but for me it's not what I want to do. So personally, like I want... AnneX, I want the sounds to be like harder and faster, but more melodic, but more cohesive. But then, that's like coming together as like an artist myself too, and like figuring out who you are.
I love that. A journey of self-discovery through Frenchcore.
Exactly. Amazing.
Well, thank you so much for today, Anne. This has been awesome. Can you tell people where they can find you, where they can connect with you online? Yeah, thanks, Amy. This was so much fun. I'm so glad you had me here, and it was really nice to see you in person. And you can find me at annexproductions.eu is my website, and that has links to everything. I'm on Spotify, Twitch, Instagram. You can message me on, you can email me, but it's probably best to message me on Instagram. Check out my tutorials. They're also on there. I also have links to free materials, as well as recommendations for really good paid materials for the hardcore genre, which is sometimes difficult to find, including samples. So go check it out. And let me know if you have ideas for other tutorials. I'm always open to, listening and helping and trying to figure stuff out together. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, guys. See you next time. Bye.